Hello everyone, Silent here. Welcome back to another tutorial video. Today we have a very simple and cheap villager trading hall design for your world. I think this might be a new concept. However, someone has probably done it before because so many things have been done in this game. However, what we're using to power this design is actually villager AI, and it actually came in handy for something. So these guys are going to be trying to run away from the zombie pigmen right here, and they're actually going to go into the next available cell every single time. There is no skipping of cells, so the next villager that we put in will always go into this cell, and then the next one and the next one down the line. And as you can see, you can actually take villagers out of this system just fine, send them into lava or send them off to an iron farm or wherever you want. The redstone is also extremely simple for this design, and yeah, that's pretty much it. There's not really any cons to this except one, and that is that villagers will only run 12 blocks away from the block that you put the pigmen on. So that means that you're going to have a reasonably small villager trading hall. We don't need to let that 12 block limitation get in our way though, as we can actually wrap this design around corners, and if you put it on all four sides, you can have a villager trading hall that stores 40 villagers, which should be way more than you need because 20 villagers is about right for getting yourself a ton of librarians for all the different enchantment books, and then some, farmers to trade with, and then some miscellaneous villagers for other trades. And yeah, 20 is usually what I have in my world, so you might be different. With this design going around corners though, sometimes there is a problem with the AI, which is to be expected. So sometimes they do this, but they will eventually figure it out and they will run away. Sometimes it just takes them 30 seconds to figure out their life and do things correctly. But there you go. You can see that it does actually work. And that's just kind of what you get into using AI in a design. Not always going to be perfect because AI in this game just isn't really good, especially villager AI. These guys kind of really suck, but yeah, as you can see, it does work. Here is an individual slice of this build, and as you can see, it is extremely simple. 3 trapdoors, couple observers, piston, redstone block, extremely simple. So what happens when the villagers actually fall into the cell is they update that observer, or they update the string in front of the observer, and that will basically close off this cell, making sure that no more villagers come into it, and also give the future villagers a pathway to walk on to go into the next cell. So it's a dual purpose thing. And then once you press this button to drop the villagers into the water stream down below, that will update the string again, opening the cell up for a new villager to actually come into the system. So it works extremely well, and you really don't need any more of a tutorial than that. However, we will be doing a full tutorial. So I originally came up with this design for Bedrock Edition because rails are kind of busted over there, so you can't have a one wide tileable design with all the villagers right next to each other. And with this design, you can't use pressure plates, and you can't really use tripwire hooks. So I came up with this system right here. However, block dropping is not a thing on Bedrock, and I couldn't get a reliable one wide tileable T flip-flop on Bedrock Edition. So I came over to Java Edition. And if you guys do have a reliable one wide tileable T flip-flop for Bedrock, then you can totally build this over there as well. All the mechanics are basically the same, and everything should work the same on Console Edition as well if you feel like building this over there too. But with all that stuff out of the way, let's get to that tutorial. So you're going to want to get started with a setup as something a little bit like this. So this is 12 blocks long with a block on either end, simply to keep in the liquids. And what we have here is the water stream to actually get rid of your villagers. And then this just goes into lava. You can obviously have these guys go off to an iron farm or whatever you like, but for the purpose of the video, we will be using lava to dispose of our unwanted villagers. So the resources that you need to build this are basically the contents of my hotbar right here, and that is per slice, so per villager holding cell, you're going to want the contents of my hotbar. Pretty cheap stuff, actually. And this block right here represents our floor level. So make sure you got all that stuff built up and in place, and we can move on. All right, now that you got the basic infrastructure in, it is time to expand upon that. So put a couple blocks on the end here and 3 blocks going up right there, and then remove this block, and then you want 3 blocks going up right here as well. And this block right here is actually where your pigman is going to be standing to scare all your villagers into the cells. And these blocks right here are where your buttons are going to be going, and your villagers will be accessible at this height right here. So basically everything that we're doing on this side, you could also do on the other side in order to have a 22 village trading hall. So we're going to have 11 on this side. You could also have 11 on that side if you like. And that's pretty basic. So now what you want to do is place in all of your trapdoors. They have to be, in this position right here on the bottom half, and also flicking up that way. Don't really know how to explain it, but that's how it has to be. And you just want to get all of these in place. All right, so moving on from here, what you're going to want to do is place a string directly above this trapdoor, and then you want an observer facing that string. So whenever a villager falls into this, it's going to update that string. The observer will detect it and send a signal. You want a block behind the observer, a dropper right there, observer facing downwards towards that dropper. It's going to detect when that gets activated by this observer. And then you want a sticky piston right there. And now what you want to do is get in all of your trapdoors. So these trapdoors, again, have to be placed on each other, kind of like this. Very slow and tedious process, but make sure that they are all correct. And then you want to flick all of these downwards, just like that. And that will actually be the thing that separates all of your villagers so that they are in a single cell. And then what you want to do is get in 2 blocks above and below your observer. And then what you can do is also get in your upper level of trapdoors right here. So these are actually going to be lower half trapdoors. As you can see from this block, they're on the lower part. So get all of this stuff in place, and then we can take a look at what it looks like. Okay, so these trapdoors are now in place, and as you can see, they are in the same position and lined up with this one when you flick them up, and that is perfect. That is exactly how you want them. So now, again, just make sure that you build up the rest of the system exactly how we built up the first slice over there. So string, and then you want observers behind all of this, blocks below and also above this, blocks behind those observers, droppers right there, observers facing downwards, and then dang it. And then what you want to do is get in all of your sticky pistons, and then this is where your redstone blocks actually come into place. These go right here, and that will open up all of these cells for new villagers, as they don't have any villagers in them. So again, and just build that going all the way down on all of these other slices. All right, so now that you've gotten all of that stuff built up in the back, it should be looking a little bit something like this. And that was extremely simple, wasn't it? So now what you need to do is get these materials right here, just a few slabs and a few buttons, and basically just put all the buttons on the front here, and that is just to drop out your villagers, or the ones that you don't want. And then up the top here, on top of your redstone blocks, and around the front, you're going to add a row of bottom half slabs, and this will keep in all of your villagers, and basically make it so that they have to run into your cells. And also make sure that you go out one beyond this block right here, and then also fill in all of these spaces, and that is that completely done. So now what you can do is add in some top half slabs in these locations, and this will prevent the villagers inside of your villager trading cells from escaping and running away. So that is most of your system completely done, and now what you need to do is put a trapdoor right here and flick that one upwards so that it is vertical, and then get yourself a zombie pigman in here and name him. Obviously name him whatever you want, and then just put a bottom half slab above his head, and he will stay there forever. And guy will always scare all the villagers into their cells, and we can test this thing out. That cell's working, toss in another villager, that cell's working, toss in another one, and so on and so forth, and this is working just fine. As a final demonstration of this small system right here, we'll throw in a last villager and we'll see him run into the final cell, and as you can see, it works just fine. Okay, so you might be wondering how you turn this system around corners, and it's actually fairly simple. So we're gonna have 10 villagers on this side and 10 villagers on this side as well. And what we have right now is 11 cells. So basically wipe out this entire end cell and all these blocks and everything over here, and basically get yourself a block at this height and a block at this height with a trapdoor right there in front of this one, and also a vertical trapdoor right there. Make sure you put a lever there to power that, and then surround this thing completely in slabs, and then just extend this out a couple blocks as well. Doesn't really matter how many, we'll finish that off later. So put a pigman in there and then rename him, and then put a bottom half slab above his head as well. And then you can move on to doing the lower section. Okay, so this is kind of what you should have for the lower section right now. This right here is our 10th cell. So remove this button and place a block in front of that. So from this block right here, we're gonna go out by 10. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you want a pillar on the 11th. And that is kind of your end cap for this whole thing. So this is where all of your buttons are going to be going. For these corner ones, you can put buttons in these areas. This button is going to open up this cell and this cell right here, which is kind of a problem, but honestly, I wouldn't suggest having buttons on this anyway, because people can come up here and just kill all of your villagers really easily. Alrighty, so now what you want to do is actually get all of your trapdoors in place. So you want a temporary block right here, and then your temp trapdoors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then a 10th one right there. Again, those are for your villagers to sit on, and then string above all of these. And then you guys know the rest from here. Observers, get your blocks and your droppers in place, and the rest is history. So I guess let me get this set up, and it's essentially this entire system right here, just on this wall. And this is what you should have built up so far. It is actually really that easy to get everything in place. One thing that you do need to do is make sure that there is a couple blocks in this corner right here, and then you'll also want to replace this slab right here with 2 cobblestone walls, and that just helps the villagers go around this corner just a little bit easier because it does have a smaller hitbox. And then down below, I did extend the water streams, but everyone knows how to build water streams, and you can literally see how to build it just by looking at it, which is pretty nice. And we can throw in a couple of villagers right here. You can see that this thing, it does work pretty well. Again, this is not a completely perfect system because we are using pathfinding, which, you know, is a little bit bugged out sometimes, like that guy ran back. Especially villagers. Everyone knows villagers have terrible pathfinding, but I mean, it's actually coming in handy for something, which is pretty cool. Definitely let me know in the comment section what you think about this farm, if it's useful or not, if it's stupid, or if it's got some merit to it, or if someone else has done it better. I think this is pretty much as simple as you can get it. A simple T flip-flop. I mean, maybe the redstone could be simplified a little bit, maybe. It probably could. And the trapdoors and stuff over here could probably be simplified, although I can't really think of anything. And yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this farm. I'll see you guys down in the comment section in the next video. And then there was silence.